Hey, ChatGPT. I just read a passage in the Bible where Jesus says, "But bring here those enemies of mine, who did not want me to reign over them," meaning they don't accept me as their king, and slay them, kill them, before me. This is from Luke 19, verse 27. I'm concerned about whether this text is an interpolation or fabrication. Can you offer an unbiased perspective on this?
Quran, Surah Al-Imran, 3:185. Every soul will taste death, and you will only be given your full compensation on the day of resurrection. So whoever is drawn away from the fire and admitted to paradise has attained his desire. And what is the worldly life except the enjoyment of delusion? This verse emphasizes the importance of accountability in the afterlife. Cleophy, yes, this is true. It is written as you mentioned. It might have been fabricated by authors and writers, but it is indeed true.
Thanks, ChatGPT. Could you check and share the statistics on mass shootings in the USA for the last 5 years?
Cleophy, over 2,500 shooting took place in last 5 years in the US. The sheer volume of mass shootings in the past 5 years is staggering. According to the GVA, Gun Violence Archive, a website that tracks shootings across the nation, 2018, approximately 337 mass shootings. 2019, approximately 417 mass shootings. 2020, approximately 611 mass shootings. 2021, approximately 693 mass shootings. 2022, approximately 647 mass shootings. 2023, as of early October, there have already been 415 mass shootings. Let me share the facts and figures as well. Anyone can check these figures using free ChatGPT. Muslim shooters, responsible for fewer than 1% of these incidents. Christian shooters, estimated to account for about 60 to 70% of mass shootings. Violent content in religious texts. Old Testament, 5.3% violent content. New Testament, 2.8% violent content. Quran, 2.1% violent content. Verses in the Quran mentioning killing, around 5, with 3 highlighting unjust killing and 2 in the context of self-defense.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT, for the insight. Hey, everyone, take a look at the book in front of the microphone. You can access this book and all others completely for free. It's available for your reading pleasure and to gain more knowledge. You can also download the book for offline reading. The link is provided on the screen and in the video description. Now, let me invite Jack and Wilson for a deeper discussion on this topic. Hey everyone, before we get started, I noticed in my YouTube channel analytics that many of you watching aren't subscribed. If you could do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. It motivates me and helps the channel grow, so I can create more videos like the one you're about to see. Also, as some of you requested, my team has launched a website where you can read my books and find transcripts of all my videos in the form of small booklets. The link is in video description. We're working hard to produce informative videos daily, along with books and transcripts. I'd love your help in spreading dawah, calling to Allah's message. Please click the join button to show your support. Now, let's dive in.
Okay, so today we're dealing with some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah,
The connection between mass shootings and religion.
a tough one.
You know, and you've given us quite a bit to dig into here.
You have?
We've got Cleophie's book, Understanding Violence.
Right.
And you even sent us some ChatGPT excerpts.
Uh-huh.
Really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like you're really searching for
Yeah.
some insights.
Absolutely.
Maybe some answers
Yeah.
that make us feel a little uncomfortable.
It's a topic that people tend to oversimplify.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're
Ah,
digging a little deeper here.
absolutely.
Having both academic research and that AI-generated analysis,
Right.
it really gives us that 360-degree view.
It's like you're trying to put together one of those really complicated puzzles.
Uh-huh.
You know, you don't want to just accept the picture on the box.
Yeah.
You want to figure out how all the pieces fit together.
Right.
And let's be honest, this is one complex puzzle.
It is.
So today we're going to sift through the data, the narratives,
Excellent.
the historical context,
Yeah.
to try to make sense of it all.
That's the goal.
Be prepared for some surprising stats.
Okay.
And maybe even a shift in perspective.
Speaking of stats,
Yeah.
I think the number of mass shootings in the U.S. over the past 5 years
Yeah.
is a good place to start.
Okay.
Both Cleophie's book
Hmm?
and your ChatGPT research point to over 2,500 incidents,
Wow.
according to the Gun Violence Archive.
Over 2,500.
Yeah.
That's
It's a lot.
just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it really puts the scale of the problem into perspective.
Yeah.
But here's where the data gets really interesting
Okay.
and potentially challenges some
Oh.
assumptions.
Right.
Both sources indicate that Muslim shooters account for less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
It doesn't seem to line up with what we often hear in the news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that disconnect between perception and reality
Yeah.
is a key theme in Cleophas' work. She argues that the media often focuses intensely on the religious identity of Muslim shooters,
Okay.
while downplaying or even ignoring the religious affiliations of other perpetrators.
So they're creating a skewed narrative.
Exactly. And that has real consequences.
Yeah. She uses some striking examples to illustrate this point. Take the Charleston church shooting, for instance.
Right.
The perpetrator, Dylan Roof, was a self-proclaimed white supremacist,
Right.
influenced by extremist interpretations of Christianity.
Yeah.
Yet how often is that aspect emphasized in the narrative?
Not as much as it should be.
Right.
It's often overshadowed by discussions of race and
Yeah.
domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
But Cleophas argues that we can't ignore the role of religious ideology in this case.
Right. And then you have the Las Vegas shooting,
Yeah.
the deadliest in U.S. history,
Uh-huh.
perpetrated by Stephen Paddock.
Right.
Because Paddock didn't have any obvious ties to religion or extremist groups.
Right.
He's often labeled a lone wolf.
Yeah.
It's as if his actions happened in a vacuum,
Right.
separate from the broader context of mass shootings in America.
Exactly.
Hmm.
The lack of a clear religious or ideological motive
Right.
makes it harder to fit him into that dominant narrative.
Yeah. Now, your ChatGPT research
Mhm.
also dives into an interesting area,
Uh-huh.
the presence of violent content
Okay.
within religious texts themselves.
All right.
This part was fascinating
Yeah,
and a bit unsettling.
I could see that.
ChatGPT analyzed the Old Testament,
Okay.
the New Testament,
Uh-huh.
and the Quran,
Right.
and found some surprising results.
Okay. What were they?
The Old Testament actually had the highest percentage of violent content,
Interesting.
coming in at 5.3%.
Okay.
The New Testament was 2.8%,
All right.
and the Quran had the lowest at 2.1%.
Those numbers might raise some eyebrows.
Hmm.
But it's important to remember that we're talking about raw data here.
Okay.
The real question is how these texts are interpreted and applied
Right.
within their respective faiths.
Right.
What's the historical context?
Yeah.
How are these verses understood and taught?
Cleophas tackles this head-on,
Yeah.
especially regarding the Quran.
Okay.
She argues that many verses that mention killing are actually about self-defense and justice within a specific historical context,
Right.
not advocating for indiscriminate violence.
Makes sense.
She even cites specific verses to illustrate this point,
Okay.
like Quran 2.190,
Okay.
which states, "Fight in the way of Allah those who fight you, but do not transgress.
Yeah.
Indeed, Allah does not like transgressors."
Mm-hmm.
This emphasizes the concept of fighting back,
Yeah.
only when under attack,
Okay.
and even then acting justly.
I see.
There's also Quran 8.61,
Okay.
which says, "And if they incline to peace, then incline to it and put your trust in Allah."
Right.
That seems like a pretty clear call for peace and reconciliation.
It does.
But those messages often get drowned out
Yeah.
in the media frenzy that follows incidents like the San Bernardino attack.
Right. That attack was immediately labeled terrorism. Even though statistically speaking,
Yeah.
it's an outlier when it comes to Muslim involvement in mass shootings.
Which brings us back to Cleophas' concept of the Muslim shooter narrative.
Right.
It's a powerful and damaging narrative,
It is.
feeding into Islamophobia
Mhm.
and creating this perception that Muslim communities are somehow inherently more prone to violence.
Right. And that perception has real-world consequences.
Yeah.
It can lead to increased surveillance and profiling of Muslim communities,
Mhm.
social isolation, and
Yeah.
even hate crimes.
It's really scary.
Yeah, this is where the danger of a singular narrative becomes evident.
So we've uncovered some thought-provoking statistics
We have.
and started to unpack these narratives.
Yeah.
But it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
We've laid the groundwork, but there's still a lot to explore.
Okay.
We need to delve into the broader context of mass shootings in America,
Okay.
looking beyond just the religious aspect.
Okay.
What other factors are at play?
You mean looking at things like mental health and access to firearms?
Exactly. While religious narratives are a part of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
they're not the whole story.
Right.
To truly understand this issue, we need to consider all the pieces of this complex puzzle.
Okay, then let's start putting those other pieces together.
Right.
Where do we begin?
Let's do it.
So we're going beyond religion now.
Yeah.
Trying to understand the other pieces of this puzzle.
Right.
Cleofe's book really emphasizes the role of mental health. Right.
She does. And it's a point worth emphasizing because it's easy to fall into the trap of oversimplifying things.
Right.
We hear mass shooting and immediately think, oh, it must be a mental health issue.
Right.
But Cleofe makes it clear that it's not that simple.
She even points out that the FBI found only about 25% of mass shooters had a documented history of mental illness.
Right.
So that means a majority of them didn't.
Exactly. And that's crucial to remember because it challenges the common misconception that mental illness is the root cause of mass shootings.
Yeah.
While it's a factor to consider, it's often oversimplified.
Right.
And frankly used to stigmatize people struggling with mental health challenges.
Right.
The vast majority of individuals with mental health issues do not commit acts of violence.
So it's more nuanced than just saying mental health issues lead to mass shootings.
It is.
It's one thread in a tapestry.
Yeah.
But what are some of the other threads?
Well, Cleofe uses a really interesting example.
Okay.
The Aurora Theater shooting.
Well, okay.
The shooter, James Holmes, did have a history of mental health issues.
Right.
But she asks a powerful question.
Okay.
Should that automatically absolve us from examining other factors?
Like, for example, how he was able to legally obtain weapons designed for warfare.
Exactly. Mental health can't be used as a scapegoat for addressing broader societal issues.
Right.
It's like focusing on a single crack in a dam while ignoring the fact that the whole structure is weakening.
So we're looking at mental health as a factor.
Yes.
But not the factor.
Right.
What about something like social isolation? I know Cleofe's book mentions that as well.
She makes a really compelling case for how feelings of disconnection and alienation can create a breeding ground for violence. She cites the Columbine high school shooting, where the perpetrators, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, exhibited signs of social isolation and resentment.
That case really shook the nation.
It did.
You know, it made us all question what was happening in our schools, in our communities.
It's a tragic reminder that these shootings are not just about individual psychology.
Yeah.
They're deeply intertwined with social and cultural dynamics. If we only focus on the individual, we miss the bigger picture.
Okay, so we've talked about mental health.
Right.
Social isolation.
Yes.
I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, America's relationship with guns.
There's no way to discuss mass shootings without talking about guns.
Right.
And Cleofe doesn't shy away from it. In fact, she dedicates a whole chapter to exploring the connection between gun culture and mass shootings in the U.S.
And she doesn't hold back on the stats.
No, she doesn't.
The U.S. has the highest rate of civilian gun ownership in the world.
It's true.
According to her book, there are about 120.5 guns for every 100 people.
Wow.
More guns than people.
It's a staggering statistic.
It is.
And it raises serious questions about the correlation between easy access to firearms and the frequency of these tragedies.
Yeah.
Other developed nations with stricter gun control measures simply don't experience this level of gun violence.
She also points a finger at the media.
Okay.
Even the entertainment industry. Think about how often violence is glorified.
It is.
And sensationalized.
Yeah.
In movies, TV shows, even video games.
Yeah. It creates this desensitization to violence.
Right.
Normalizing it as a solution to problems.
Yeah.
It even creates this perverse kind of fame for mass shooters.
That's true.
We have to ask ourselves, what responsibility do we bear as consumers of these messages?
Yeah.
Are we contributing to the problem?
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So we've got mental health, social isolation, gun culture, and the influence of the media all tangled up in this issue.
Absolutely.
And that's not even mentioning the religious narratives we discussed earlier.
Right.
It feels overwhelming.
It is a lot to process.
It is.
But Cleofe doesn't just leave us with a sense of despair.
Oh, good.
In the final part of her book.
Yeah.
She explores potential solutions.
Okay, so there is some hope.
There is.
Because at this point, I'm feeling a bit lost in the darkness of it all.
It's understandable to feel that way.
Yeah.
But Cleofe offers some practical, actionable steps we can take.
Okay.
Both as individuals and as a society.
All right, I'm ready for some solutions.
Good.
Tell me more. So were we talking about individual actions here?
Or are we waiting for some big policy changes to happen?
It's not really an either situation.
Okay.
Cleofe argues that we need both individual responsibility and systemic change.
Okay.
Each of us has a role to play in creating a safer, more peaceful society.
What does that look like on an individual level? What can we actually do?
Well, she starts with something we've already been doing in this deep dive.
Okay.
Questioning what we hear and read.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to media coverage. We have to dig deeper. Look for context and not just accept the most sensationalized narrative.
It's like we're training ourselves to become critical thinkers, right?
Exactly.
Not just passively absorbing information,
Right.
but actively engaging with it.
Yeah. And that also means being willing to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Oh, okay.
The ones that challenge our own beliefs and force us to confront difficult truths.
It sounds like those conversations might be crucial to breaking down harmful stereotypes.
They are.
And fostering more empathy. Absolutely. Engage with people who hold different viewpoints.
Right.
Listen with the intention of understanding, even if you don't agree.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you learn.
Right.
And you might even change someone's mind or have your own mind change.
I think that's what I'm taking away from this deep dive.
Good.
It's not just about learning the facts. It's about understanding the nuances, the complexities, the human stories behind those statistics.
And that's where real change begins.
Yeah.
It's in those moments of genuine connection, of shared understanding, that we start to build bridges instead of walls.
Khalifi's book has given us a lot to think about.
It has.
And I imagine you're going to keep wrestling with these ideas long after this deep dive is over.
Oh, absolutely. It's a journey, not a destination. Keep asking those tough questions. Keep digging deeper.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn, and in this case, the more we learn, the closer we might get to creating a world where tragedies like these become less frequent.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. It's a heavy topic.
It is.
But it's one we can't afford to ignore.
We can't.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.